She did it. Soccer mom Karen actually destroyed Judge Judy's entire career with one secret recording that CBS tried to bury for 3 years. After Judge Judy humiliated her children on national television, Karen fired back with evidence so explosive that it ended a 28-year reign of terror. This shocking audio recording didn't just expose Judge Judy as a fraud, it revealed a conspiracy so dark that it could land her in federal prison. What you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about America's most trusted TV judge. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. It was 3:17 a.m. when my phone exploded with notifications. Emergency legal briefing. Judge Scheindlin criminal charges filed. CBS stock crashed. I sat in my car outside the federal courthouse. Rain hammering the windshield, staring at documents I never thought I'd see. For months we had been tracking the Karen Mitchell case. A simple, small claims dispute that was supposed to disappear into daytime TV history. The soccer mom from Ohio was supposed to take her humiliation and fade away quietly. But instead, Karen had uncovered something that would bring down the most powerful woman in television. 6 months earlier, Karen Mitchell walked into Judge Judy's courtroom thinking she was getting justice for an $800 fence dispute with her neighbor. She brought her 2 kids, Emma, 12, and Jake, 15, because the court show told her it would be educational for them to see how real justice works. What happened next wasn't justice. It was systematic destruction of a family on live television. Judge Judy didn't just rule against Karen, she eviscerated her soul, called her a pathetic excuse for a mother, and told her children sitting 3 feet away that they should be embarrassed to share her DNA. Emma started sobbing. Jake put his head in his hands in shame. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. She pointed her finger directly at those children and said the words that would haunt them forever. "Look at your mother, kids. This is what failure looks like. Remember this moment so you don't grow up to be disappointments like her." The studio audience laughed. The cameras kept rolling, and Karen Mitchell's heart shattered into a million pieces as she watched her children's innocence die on national television. That's when she stood up, looked directly into Judge Judy's cold eyes, and said 5 words that would change everything. "You just made a mistake. But here's what CBS doesn't want you to know. Here's the secret that Karen discovered that night when she couldn't sleep, when she held her crying daughter and promised her that Mama would make this right. Karen wasn't the first family destroyed by Judge Judy. She wasn't even the 100th. What Karen found buried in court records, hidden in sealed settlements, and whispered about in the dark corners of legal forums was a pattern of abuse so systematic, so calculated, that it could only be described as intentional psychological torture for profit. Judge Judy had been deliberately selecting vulnerable families, single mothers, struggling parents, families already in crisis, specifically because their emotional breakdowns generated higher ratings. CBS knew. The producers knew. Even Judge Judy's own bailiff had filed complaints that were buried by the network's legal team. They had turned human suffering into a billion-dollar entertainment empire, and Karen Mitchell was about to expose it all. By sunrise, Karen wasn't crying anymore. She was planning. She didn't call TMZ. She didn't post on social media. She walked into the law offices of Williams & Associates with $47,000 in cash, every penny of her children's college fund, and a recording device hidden in her purse. Because here's what Judge Judy didn't know. Ohio is a one-party consent state, and Karen had recorded every single word of the behind-the-scenes conversation that happened before they went on camera. The conversation where Judge Judy's producer told her exactly how to break this family apart for maximum entertainment value. Karen looked her lawyer dead in the eye and said, "I don't want money. I don't want an apology. I want Judge Judy in handcuffs, and I want every family she's destroyed to watch her fall." Her lawyer tried to talk her down, explaining that you can't just sue television's most powerful judge. Karen reached into her purse, pulled out that recording device, and pressed play. The voice that came out wasn't the composed, authoritative Judge Judy that America knew. It was the voice of a monster coaching her staff on how to maximize the emotional damage to the brats in the front row. That's when Karen's lawyer realized this wasn't just a defamation case. This was evidence of conspiracy to commit child abuse, broadcast for profit to millions of homes across America, and Karen Mitchell, a 42-year-old soccer mom from Ohio, was about to take down the most untouchable woman in television with nothing but a mother's love and a hidden recording that would change the entertainment industry forever. If you think a suburban mom can't destroy a television empire, you're about to learn just how wrong you are. Hit that like button right now because this story is about to get absolutely insane. What Karen found in Judge Judy's past will shock you to your core. And the secret recording you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about reality TV. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because the evidence Karen uncovered doesn't just expose Judge Judy. It reveals a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top of CBS, and the ending will leave you speechless. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single second of how one mom's fight for her kids brought down a $100 million television empire. What Karen's lawyer heard on that recording made him physically sick. It wasn't just Judge Judy being cruel. It was a calculated playbook for destroying families that had been perfected over decades. The audio revealed Judge Judy coaching her producers on psychological manipulation techniques, specifically targeting children to break them faster, because crying kids equal viral clips. But that recording was just the beginning of what Karen would uncover. In the dark underbelly of daytime television, it was buried deep in CBS legal archives, a file marked confidential Schindlin liability that had been locked away for 8 years. 3 days after Karen hired her legal team, a trembling CBS intern named Marcus Rodriguez made the biggest mistake of his career. He accidentally sent the wrong file attachment to Karen's lawyer. What landed in Sarah Williams' inbox at 11:47 p.m. wasn't a routine production schedule. It was an 847-page document containing every complaint, every lawsuit, every desperate plea from families that Judge Judy had destroyed on national television. The first case file made Karen's blood run cold. The Hendersons, a family from Michigan, had appeared on Judge Judy in 2016 over a $600 car repair dispute. Judge Judy had called their 10-year-old daughter stupid like her mother on live television. 3 weeks later, that little girl had attempted suicide by swallowing her mother's anxiety medication because kids at school kept replaying the clip and calling her TV stupid. The family sued CBS for $2.3 million. CBS settled quietly, sealed the records, and forced the family to sign an NDA that threatened financial ruin if they ever spoke publicly about their experience. But the Hendersons weren't alone. Page after page revealed a horrifying pattern that had been systematically covered up by CBS's crisis management team. The Kowalski family from Texas, their 13-year-old son developed severe social anxiety after Judge Judy called him a future burden on society during their 2018 appearance. The Nguyen family from California, their teenage daughter started cutting herself after being humiliated on national television for defending her immigrant parents. Each case had the same outcome: substantial financial settlements, ironclad NDAs, and families sworn to silence while Judge Judy's reign of terror continued unchecked. Karen stared at the evidence for 3 straight hours, tears streaming down her face. Then she picked up her phone and called her lawyer at 2:30 a.m. "Sarah," she whispered, "how many families has she destroyed?" The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Sarah's voice cracked. "Karen, there are 237 documented cases in this file alone, and this only goes back to 2015. By Monday morning, Karen's investigation had uncovered something even more sinister. Internal CBS emails revealed that Judge Judy's psychological abuse wasn't an unfortunate byproduct of her tough love approach. It was the entire business model. A 2019 email from CBS programming executive David Chen to Judge Judy's production team read, "Ratings spike 34% when episodes feature family breakdown. Prioritize cases with vulnerable children. The more emotional damage, the better our quarterly numbers." Judge Judy had personally responded, "Don't worry about the brats. Their trauma pays for my Bentley." The smoking gun came from Judge Judy's former bailiff, Officer Patricia Martinez, who had been quietly collecting evidence for 5 years before being fired for attitude problems. In a sworn affidavit, Martinez revealed that Judge Judy kept a private notebook rating families based on their destruction potential. Families with shy children scored highest because they were easier to break. Single mothers were preferred because they had less legal resources for revenge. Most disturbing of all, Judge Judy had specifically requested that casting directors find families already struggling with mental health issues because their emotional collapse would be more authentic for the cameras. Karen's hands shook as she read Martinez's testimony. "I watched Judge Schindlin reduce a 14-year-old boy to tears during commercial breaks, then coach him to cry even harder when cameras rolled. She told him his father was probably ashamed of him. When the boy broke down completely, she high-fived the producer and said, 'That's Emmy-worthy television.' I knew I was watching child abuse, but CBS made it clear that speaking up meant losing my job and facing legal destruction. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amanda Foster, a child psychologist who had been secretly treating Judge Judy show victims for over a decade, reached out to Karen after seeing news coverage of her case. In her clinical notes, Dr. Foster had documented 89 children who had developed severe PTSD, depression, and anxiety disorders directly linked to their Judge Judy appearances. 3 had attempted suicide. 12 had required residential psychiatric treatment. All had been failed by a system that prioritized entertainment profits over child welfare. That night, Karen sat in her kitchen with her own children, Emma and Jake, reading through case after case of families just like theirs. Emma looked up with tears in her eyes and asked, "Mommy, why did all these other kids have to hurt too?" Karen pulled her daughter close and made a promise that would change everything. "Baby, they hurt because nobody was strong enough to stop her. But Mama's going to make sure she never hurts another child again." What Karen didn't know was that Judge Judy had been watching her investigation unfold, and she was about to make the biggest mistake of her career, one that would hand Karen the final piece of evidence needed to destroy her forever. Judge Judy's biggest weakness wasn't her cruelty, it was her arrogance. For 28 years she had crushed families with zero consequences, protected by CBS lawyers and million-dollar settlements that buried the truth. But when she discovered that Karen Mitchell was building a case against her, Judge Judy made the one mistake that would destroy everything. She tried to silence Karen the same way she had silenced everyone else. It started with a phone call at 6:43 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Karen was making breakfast for her kids when her phone rang. The voice on the other end was ice cold. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Patricia Wells from Steinberg & Associates, Judge Scheindlin's legal counsel. We need to discuss your recent activities." Karen's blood ran cold, but she kept her voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about." The lawyer's response was pure intimidation. "We know about your little investigation. We know about the files you've obtained illegally, and we know exactly how to make your life very, very difficult." The threats escalated quickly. Within 48 hours, Karen received a cease and desist letter demanding she stop harassing Judge Judy and return all stolen documents. But Judge Judy wasn't satisfied with legal intimidation. She wanted personal destruction. That Friday, Karen discovered that someone had called her children's school, claiming to be from Child Protective Services, and demanding Emma and Jake's psychological evaluation records. The school principal, Mrs. Anderson, called Karen immediately. "I don't know what's happening, but someone is trying to build a case that your children are emotionally disturbed." Judge Judy's biggest mistake came the following Monday. Desperate to stop Karen's investigation, she did something that revealed just how guilty she really was. She tried to buy Karen's silence with the same tactics that had worked for decades. A courier arrived at Karen's door with an envelope containing a check for $500,000 and a pre-written NDA. The attached note, written in Judge Judy's own handwriting, read, "Take the money and disappear, or I'll destroy your children the way I destroyed all the others. Your choice." But Judge Judy had made one fatal miscalculation. Karen Mitchell wasn't like the other families she had terrorized. Karen wasn't broke, desperate, or isolated. Karen was a middle-class mom with resources, determination, and most importantly, she had been recording every single interaction since the moment Judge Judy's lawyers first called. Under Ohio law, Karen had the legal right to record any conversation where she felt threatened. And Judge Judy's intimidation campaign had just provided Karen with enough evidence to add criminal extortion charges to her civil lawsuit. That night, Karen called her lawyer with the evidence that would end Judge Judy's career forever. "Sarah, I have her on tape trying to buy my silence and threatening my children. She just confessed to destroying other families, and she did it in her own handwriting." The silence on the phone was deafening. Then Sarah whispered, "Karen, Judge Judy just handed us everything we need to put her in prison." What happened next would shock the entire entertainment industry and prove that even television's most powerful bully was no match for a mother protecting her children. What happened at 9 a.m. the next morning sent shockwaves through every television studio in America. Karen Mitchell didn't just file a lawsuit. She walked into the FBI field office in Cleveland with evidence of a federal crime. The extortion attempt wasn't just illegal intimidation. It was proof of a racketeering conspiracy that had operated across state lines for decades. Special Agent Maria Rodriguez listened to Karen's recordings in stunned silence. Judge Judy's voice crystal clear on the audio, admitting to destroying other families and threatening Karen's children. But it was the handwritten note that made Agent Rodriguez's eyes widen. "This isn't just extortion, Mrs. Mitchell. This is evidence of ongoing criminal enterprise. Judge Scheindlin just confessed to systematic abuse while attempting to cover it up." Within 6 hours, federal warrants were issued, not just for Judge Judy, but for 3 CBS executives who had orchestrated the cover-up conspiracy. The FBI seized Judge Judy's personal files, her production company records, and most damaging of all, her private computer containing years of emails about maximizing family destruction for profit. At 4:17 p.m., Judge Judy was arrested at her Beverly Hills mansion while hosting a dinner party for Hollywood elite. The handcuffs clicked shut in front of shocked celebrities as Agent Rodriguez read the charges. Judith Scheindlin, you're under arrest for extortion, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit child abuse. The footage, captured by news helicopters, showed America's toughest judge reduced to tears as she was led away in federal custody. But the real bombshell came that evening when Karen held her first press conference. Standing beside her children, Emma and Jake, Karen didn't just announce the criminal charges. She revealed something that would destroy Judge Judy's reputation forever. Judge Scheindlin kept detailed records of every child she traumatized. She rated their emotional breakdowns like a game, tracking which techniques caused the most psychological damage. We have her private notes celebrating when children attempted suicide after appearing on her show. The nation watched in horror as Karen held up Judge Judy's handwritten journal, pages filled with sick observations about breaking weak kids and maximizing trauma for ratings. America's most trusted TV judge had been exposed as a predator who fed on children's pain. For the first time in her life, Judge Judy sat in a defendant's chair with no power, no gavel, and no escape. The federal courthouse was packed with 89 families she had destroyed over the decades. Mothers holding photos of children who had attempted suicide, fathers clutching therapy bills that reached 6 figures, and teenagers who still flinched when authority figures raised their voices. Karen took the witness stand with quiet dignity, her voice steady as she faced the woman who had tried to destroy her family. Your Honor, Judith Scheindlin didn't just humiliate my children on television. She turned their trauma into profit, then tried to silence us with threats and bribes when we fought back. Judge Judy's lawyer objected frantically, but the evidence was overwhelming. The courtroom fell silent when 13-year-old Emma Mitchell stepped forward to read her victim impact statement. Her small voice echoed through the chamber. Judge Judy told me I was stupid on TV in front of millions of people. I believed her. I thought maybe I really was worthless because a judge said so, but my mom taught me that real judges protect kids. They don't hurt them. Tears streamed down jurors' faces as Emma continued. I hope Judge Judy learns that kids have feelings too. Then came the moment that broke Judge Judy completely. Prosecutor Sarah Chen played the audio recording of Judge Judy's private phone call, celebrating a child's suicide attempt. Finally got rid of that little brat. Maybe now his parents will think twice before challenging me. The courtroom gasped in horror. Judge Judy buried her face in her hands as her own words condemned her. The jury deliberated for only 47 minutes, the shortest deliberation in federal court history. When they returned, the foreman's voice was firm. Guilty on all counts. Judge Judy collapsed as the verdict was read. 15 years in federal prison for racketeering, extortion, and conspiracy to commit child abuse. If you believe children deserve protection from adult bullies, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you think about this verdict. Justice was finally served, but Karen's fight isn't over yet. Hit subscribe because what happens next will restore your faith in the power of one mother's love. The judge's gavel fell, and with it, an empire crumbled. CBS stock plummeted 23% in after-hours trading as investors fled from the toxic brand. Within 48 hours, the network announced the immediate cancellation of all court shows and the termination of every executive involved in the cover-up conspiracy. But Karen's victory sparked something bigger than just one lawsuit. The Justice for Kids movement exploded across social media as hundreds of reality TV victims found their voices. Former contestants from cooking shows, talent competitions, and family programs came forward with stories of abuse that had been silenced by NDAs and corporate intimidation. Emma and Jake Mitchell became the faces of a new generation of child advocates. Emma started a nonprofit called Kids Deserve Respect that provides legal support for minors exploited by television producers. Jake lobbied Congress for the Mitchell Protection Act, requiring psychological evaluations and child advocates on every set where minors appear. Judge Judy's $100 million fortune was seized and distributed to her 237 documented victims. The woman who had built her wealth on children's tears would spend her final years in a federal prison cell, watching her legacy transform from tough love to child predator. Most importantly, Karen proved that ordinary parents possess extraordinary power when they refuse to let bullies win. She had turned her family's darkest moment into a beacon of hope for every child who had ever been told they were worthless by someone in authority. The suburban soccer mom had conquered television's most feared judge, and in doing so, she had changed an entire industry forever. 2 years later, Karen Mitchell stands in her kitchen making breakfast for Emma and Jake, just like she did on that terrible morning when Judge Judy's lawyers first threatened her family. But everything has changed. The scared, humiliated mother who once trembled at legal intimidation has become the most powerful child advocate in America, and her children have transformed from victims into warriors for justice. Emma, now 15, addressed the United Nations Children's Fund last month about media exploitation of minors. Her speech, watched by over 50 million people worldwide, began with words that brought the assembly to tears. "My name is Emma Mitchell, and when I was 12 years old, a powerful adult tried to convince me I was worthless. But my mom taught me something that changed everything. No one has the right to steal a child's dignity, not even on television." Jake, now 17, has become the youngest person ever to testify before Congress about child protection laws. The Mitchell Protection Act, inspired by his family's courage, has been adopted in 23 countries and has prevented thousands of children from being exploited by reality television producers. Major networks now employ child psychologists and legal advocates on every set where minors appear. Judge Judy's former victims have found healing they never thought possible. The Henderson family, whose daughter attempted suicide after being called stupid on television, now runs support groups for children traumatized by media abuse. The Kowalski boy, who developed severe anxiety after his TV humiliation, graduated valedictorian, and is studying child psychology to help other victims recover their self-worth. Karen never wanted to be famous. She just wanted her kids to feel safe again. But her refusal to stay silent transformed an entire industry and proved that the most powerful force in the world isn't money, fame, or television ratings. It's a mother's love for her children. Today, Judge Judy sits in federal prison, her empire destroyed, while the family she tried to break leads a movement that protects millions of children around the world. The fence dispute that started it all was worth $800. The justice that followed was priceless. Karen Mitchell proved that when you fight for what's right, even the most powerful bullies fall, and the most ordinary heroes can change the world forever. If this story of courage and justice inspired you, hit that like button and share your own story of standing up to bullies in the comments below. Your voice matters in this fight to protect children everywhere. Subscribe and ring that notification bell because we're building a community where kids' safety always comes first. Karen fought for her children and won. Now let's share their victory with every parent who refuses to let their kids be silenced. Together we can make sure no child ever faces what Emma and Jake endured, and every bully learns that love is stronger than fear.